Every year, more than 75 million cars are produced worldwide. This means that globally, more than 2 cars are manufactured every second. With a market valued at over $3 trillion, these vehicles are the backbone of mobility in modern industry. But do you know how they are made? In this video, you'll see every stage of car manufacturing, from steel coils to the finished vehicle coming off the assembly line. Everything starts long before the first part is cut. It begins as a concept, a digital drawing on a computer. Engineers spend years designing and simulating each of the thousands of components. They define not only the appearance of the car, but also how it will behave in a collision, its fuel efficiency, and, crucially, how it can be efficiently mass-produced. When this digital design is approved, the factory receives the production order and the raw materials start to arrive. The main raw material for a car's body is steel. It doesn't arrive in sheets, but in gigantic coils, looking like rolls of aluminum foil weighing several tons. The first destination for this steel is the stamping shop, or press shop. This is where the car starts to take on its three-dimensional shape. The stamping area is one of the noisiest places in the factory. The steel from the coil is unrolled. It's cut into flat sheets called blanks, and then fed into giant presses. These machines, which can be as tall as a 3- or 4-story building, exert thousands of tons of force. They use molds called dies to strike the steel and force it to take on complex shapes. In a sequence of deafening blows, a flat sheet of metal is transformed into a door, a roof, a hood, or the vehicle's floor pan. Each main part of the body takes shape here, and precision is essential. With the stamped parts ready, we move on to the next stage. Body assembly, also known as the body shop. This is where the car's skeleton is assembled. This is the area where the robots are the main players. In a modern assembly line, it's common to see dozens or even hundreds of robotic arms working in a mesmerizing choreography. The various stamped steel parts, the floor pan, the sides, the roof, the pillars, are brought in and positioned with millimeter precision. The robots spring into action, mainly using spot welding. You can see them as giant clamps that fire an intense electric charge, fusing the metal sheets at thousands of points. It's this welding that gives the car its structural rigidity, creating the safety cell that protects the occupants. In a matter of minutes, a set of loose parts is transformed into what is called the body in white, or the bare body shell. It already has the shape of a car, but it's still bare metal with no paint or components. Before moving forward, this car body goes through a rigorous quality inspection. High-precision lasers and cameras scan the metal skeleton, comparing its dimensions with the original digital design. If there is even a 1 millimeter difference, it is identified. Ensuring that the body geometry is perfect at this stage is vital so that the doors close properly, to prevent water leaks and to make the car safe. Once it passes inspection, the body moves on to one of the longest and most complex processes in the factory: painting. This process is not just to give the car its color. Its main function is to protect the metal against corrosion. Modern painting is a multi-layer process that can take several hours. First, the body needs to be impeccably clean. After cleaning comes the most important protection step, the e-coat bath or electro-deposition primer. The body is completely immersed in a giant tank filled with a primer liquid. An electric current is applied to the tank and the body, causing the primer particles to be electrochemically attracted and adhere to every square inch of the metal, including the inside of the most hidden cavities. It's this bath that prevents the car from rusting from the inside out. After drying in an oven, the body receives sealants. Robots apply a rubberized material to all joints, welds, and gaps, completely sealing the vehicle against the entry of water, dust, and noise. Only then does the color start to appear. The body enters hermetically sealed paint booths with controlled airflow. Robotic arms spray the paint evenly. First comes the primer, a layer that helps the colored paint adhere and smooth the surface. Then the base coat, which is the actual color of the car. And finally, the clear coat, a transparent layer that gives shine and protects the color from UV rays, light scratches, and the weather. Between each layer, the car goes through drying ovens to cure the paint. In the end, human inspectors under special lights carefully check the finish, looking for any flaws. While the body was going through painting, something equally complex was happening in another part of the factory. The assembly of the powertrain, the heart of the car, the engine block, usually made of aluminum or cast iron, goes through a machining process. High-precision machines drill the cylinders, smooth the surfaces, and create the channels through which oil and water will circulate. On a dedicated assembly line, technicians and robots install the internal components: the crankshaft, the pistons, the connecting rods, the valves. The engine is closed up, receives the injection system, the alternator, and other ancillary components. At the same time, the gearbox is assembled, and then the engine and the transmission are joined together. Now we reach the final assembly line. This is where the car, now painted and shiny, meets the thousands of other parts. The final assembly line is a long, continuous conveyor belt. In one of the first steps, something curious happens. The doors are removed. They are sent to a parallel line to receive their own components, such as windows, locks, and speakers. This is done so that workers have more space to access the interior of the vehicle. The empty body begins its journey. The first major installation is the wiring harness. Think of it as the car's nervous system. It's a huge set of wires and connectors that will carry power and data to the headlights, the dashboard, the power windows, and the engine. Acoustic and thermal insulation materials are applied to the floor and ceiling. The carpet is installed. The instrument panel, which is usually assembled on a separate subline, already with the steering wheel, air vents, and gauges, is brought in and installed as a single module. The pedals are attached. The center console is fitted. Meanwhile, on the lower part of the line, the chassis is being prepared. The front and rear suspension, the brakes, the brake and fuel lines, and the exhaust system are assembled onto a frame. And then comes the marriage. This is one of the most impressive moments in production. The painted body, which travels suspended above, comes down and meets the complete chassis coming from below. At a single point on the line, the body is lowered onto the engine, the transmission, and the suspension. In less than a minute, the car now has its engine and its front and rear suspension. The line continues. The fuel tanks and the bumpers are installed. The wheels and tires, already assembled and balanced at another station, are bolted on. The glass, including the windshield and the rear window, are installed. The seats, which also come from a supplier or from a nearby line, are placed inside the cabin. The doors, which were assembled on their own separate line, are reunited with the original body from which they were removed. They are tracked to ensure that the door painted in exactly the same batch goes back to the correct car. The car is almost complete, but it's still dry. It enters the fluid filling station. Here it receives for the first time the coolant for the radiator, brake fluid, power steering fluid if applicable, and a small but precise amount of gasoline. Just enough so that the engine can be started and the car can be driven off the line. But the car is still not ready for sale. It now enters the final testing and inspection phase. The engine is started for the first time here. It moves on to alignment, where lasers check and adjust the wheel geometry. Then it goes to the dynamometer, a kind of treadmill for cars. The wheels spin on rollers, allowing the testers to accelerate, shift gears, and apply the brakes, checking if the transmission and engine are responding as they should. All of this without the car moving. A crucial test is the water test. The car is placed in a booth that simulates a storm, with high-pressure water jets being sprayed from all angles. This is to ensure that none of the seals on the doors, windows, or bodywork are failing and that there are no leaks. Finally, the car undergoes a detailed visual inspection. Quality inspectors under intense lighting look for any defects in the paint, misalignment between panels, the gaps between the door and the fender, for example. And they check if all the electrical components, wipers, radio, power windows, are working perfectly. Only after passing dozens of tests and inspections does the car receive the final quality seal. It is covered with protective plastic on the seats and the hood and is driven to the factory yard, ready to be loaded onto a car carrier truck and begin its journey to a dealership. And that was today's video. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel.